But even with the revised law, Republic Act 8353, we still have a lot of dismissals in courts and by the prosecutors.
Why is that?
So there's still a lack of credibility being given by prosecutors and judges for complainants of rape. So that's why it's unfortunate that many people do not believe that the woman is telling the truth. So what we're saying is that we still want to revise the law further and make it a point that prosecutors, judges should believe that the issue of rape is that the center should be the lack of consent. So when you say lack of consent, the burden to prove that there was lack of consent would be on the perpetrator, right? So for example, did the perpetrator ask if the woman was consenting, etc.? So those kinds of actions, if the burden of proof is on the perpetrator, then it's not on the woman. For example, you do not ask someone who was beaten up in the street why he was beaten up, right? So you don't ask a woman why she was raped, definitely, right? So what we're saying is that you should believe the woman for whatever reason she says. When she says that she's raped, you should believe the woman.
But there's still that culture, right? That actually favors, well, the rapist. That
Well,
if a person says, no, the burden of proof is on the victim.
Well, yeah, you have several schools of thought with the Supreme Court. You have a long line of cases also saying that you should believe the woman, but you have several cases from 2018 which are not good Supreme Court cases,
and even
basically not believing the woman.
Where we are right now, who has the burden of proving or disproving consent? Is it the victim or the suspect?
Well, if you take a look at the twin laws, Republic Act 8353, Republic Act 8505, you would even have there like a presumption that there's lack of consent if she resisted, for example. But the problem is in practice. So when you say in practice, that's when the prosecutor, that's when the judge starts lacking credence, but not placing credence on the woman, okay? So, or for any victim for that matter. So what I'm saying is that the laws would have been sufficient, except that the mindsets of certain prosecutors and judges do not help, because there's still sexism, there's still even women judges, women justices acquit women sometimes. They are harsh on women. So what I'm saying is that we want to strengthen the law further by placing lack of consent at its center, and by placing the burden on the
suspect,
on the perpetrator, right? So we have a high rate of incidents of rape in the Philippines. It's almost one woman raped every hour still. And despite reports of the PNP that it has minimally decreased, that's still a high number. So what I'm saying is that we need women to start reporting the cases. We need the police officers to do their jobs. We need crisis centers to be set up as required by the law in each city and in each province, which is not happening. We actually, do you know that we only have one, what do you call that, DNA laboratory here in the Philippines with the PNP, and that goes for Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. One also for NBI as well. So you would see that where is the money of the government going? In terms of DNA analysis, that's also important, very important, for example, for rape cases. So if you have a rape case, for example, in Cebu or in Cotabato, the police officer would have to bring that in Manila, the DNA evidence, and that does not happen. So we need to strengthen the prosecution aspect as well, even the investigation. Prosecutors tend to act like judges during the preliminary investigation. They should actually be going to the crime scenes, right? Doing the investigation, strengthening the investigation. There are pending bills on this. And we would want these bills to be passed because we would want prosecutors to take active roles in investigation.
How prevalent is the attitude that a victim was asking for it? You know, by dressing up in a certain way, or talking or acting in a certain way. How prevalent is this from your work around the country?
If you talk about jurisprudence, I would say it's like 50-50. 50% saying that you should give credence to the woman, you should believe the woman. 50% saying it's the woman's fault. And you have examples of 2 recent Supreme Court cases. So to me, the fact that you still have the Supreme Court cases in 2018, not believing the woman for delaying reporting, etc. These are cases that should not be happening in the year 2018 and especially now in 2019.